Horsey, the son of Honor Code, who earned over $2 million in just 11 starts, is here and ready to do business. Horsey is here to do business. Horsey is here to do business.
All right. Here we go again. So tonight we have a very interesting guest as usual. I'm very excited to have not only is he a vet, but he also calls the races in Barbados. Before we get him on stage and start talking to him, being a vet, I guess the only thing that he probably won't mess with is a two-legged animal. But four-legged animals, he's probably cool with. But we'll dig deep and find out if he deals with the two-legged animals as well. And we'll get right into it. So without any further delay, let's bring my man on to stage, Dean Springer.
Hi, good night, Derek. And to everyone out there who's watching this thing.
Hello, Dr. Dean. How are you?
I'm good. Being better, but being worse.
Being worse. You know what? First of all, I want to thank you for joining us and for accepting coming on this platform and sharing a little bit about what you do and sharing a bit of your knowledge, of the horses and the races and so forth, your experience in horse racing. So welcome.
It's great to be here, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Well, I try to get the best of the best. So if anybody thinks that they're less, no, you're actually one of the best. So welcome again, my friend.
It's great to be here.
Hey, look, man, let's get started into this thing, and you can tell the people out there how you first got started in this business of horse racing.
I was pretty much born into it. My dad was a racehorse owner from before I was born. My uncle was a jock, so it kind of followed suit. I was going to races for as long as I could remember.
Oh, wow.
Of course, like every young kid, I wanted to be a jockey. Tried it, didn't quite work out. And figured if I can't ride them, I'll learn to fix them. So I ended up going to college for a couple of years and then off to university and became a veterinarian.
Oh, wow, man. That's awesome. I actually did some research and I saw that you went to the University of West Indies. And which one exactly did you attend?
The vet school is at Mount Hope in Trinidad.
That's pretty
it's
cool.
Actually, there I had my first horse as a winner.
Oh yeah, you actually had your first horse during university?
Yeah, I started going to races probably in my second year a lot. I met up with a gentleman by the name of Juan Mosca, and another friend of mine and I were going to go into a horse together. And then he backed out, and Juan told me, choose a horse. The horse ended up picking me because he told me there were like 3 of them to look at. One that caught my eye, unfortunately, had never raced. He was soon turning 4, and he had 2 big bow tendons. But fate would have it, I looked at him, turned away, and he grabbed me by the shirt and kept pulling me back. So I went, well, if you want to be mine so bad, sure, why not?
Hey, no, these horses got some characters, and I guess that one kind of found you, just like you found him.
Yeah, pretty much. It's quite a funny story around him. His name was the Gambler. And, he was having his first race, and I told the jockey, Bradering, don't beat him up. But even before that, I called the trainer, same one, Moscow, and asked him who was riding, and he told me Jadu. And I immediately thought Ricky Jadu, and I thought to myself, how is Ricky Jadu riding this first time starter? And there's another horse in the barn that on paper looks like it should not lose. Got to races to find out it is Kenny Jadu, who is Ricky's older brother. Juan had decided to give him the ride because he was galloping the horse every morning. So by the end of the day, I lost, I don't know how many $100s betting. And I bet the other horse in the barn 100 times across the board, keyed it, trifecta, superfecta with another 3 or 4 horses. And then I said, all right, well, I got $60 left. I'll put $20 across the board on my horse because it's my horse. Not expecting it to do well. Because I accept that you come into racing, you got to get some beating before you get success. So there were a whole bunch of students from that school with me at races that day. And I said, we missed the break a little bit. I saw him go by a couple of horses. I said, okay, well, he's not going to run last. And I started watching. The horse said, bet on heavily. And she's up front. Well, halfway through the turn one, the girls goes, where is he? And I go, he's 3 from last. He's 4th from last. And I start about watching the other horse in the barn, a horse called Romantic Princess. She's in front by about 2. And as the tornado stretched, the girl goes again, Dean, where is he? So I scanned him and I said, oh, he's 5th from last. He's 6th. He's 5th. He's 4th. Oh my God, he's going to win. And he got up and nailed Romantic Princess on the line. I was so shocked that the girls actually said, Dean, you know, you got to go leading. So I went down, let him in, got the trophy. And as I was walking back up to the grandstand, this little Indian lady, she came and hugged me up, said, thank you, Doc, thank you, Doc. And I'm like, who are you? She goes, I'm Kenny's wife. Like, you know, the next morning I went to Kenny and said, Kenny, you know, you could have told me something. He said, but Doc, when I told you I wasn't going to hit him, what do you think I meant? So yeah, I got a dream start. He actually won his first 2 races. And then he ran a decent 3rd behind a horse called Midnight Tornado, and a 4th behind what was the best horse in Trinidad at the time, a horse called Sands Gold, before he actually broke down. Not surprisingly, as you know, he was suspect from before. But I knew that was a dream start and that the lashes would come. I guess they have come.
Hey, that's awesome, man. That's an awesome story. What was the purses like back then?
I really can't even remember what the purses were like in Trinidad back then. You know, like I said, I was just happy to have a horse that could run a little bit. Funny thing is that I did not tell my dad about having this horse until after he raced and won. So I said, look, I gotta tell him now, we gotta fess up. So I called him and his comments were, we'll get rid of it now. Then when he won the 2nd start, I called him and told him, and he goes, well, get rid of it now. But then when he broke down, ironically, he was like, so why don't take it to the vet school and see if you could patch him up and fix
it? Oh my goodness. Oh man, that's pretty awesome. Now, people probably hearing your students in the background. Are those your dogs? Your clients? Who are those guys back there?
Those are my clients' dogs. Unfortunately, I can't. They don't understand what we're going on right now.
Hey, that's pretty cool. You know, I first met you last year in Barbados, and I quickly realized how busy your operation is, because within 5 minutes there were people coming in and out constantly. You know, do you ever get days like that? Was that a off day or that's a good day? What was that like?
You know, it varies. And here it can go from 0 to madness back to 0 in a blink of an eye. You could take a day like on Sunday morning, nothing happened until 11:45, and we close at 11 on Sunday mornings. And then all of a sudden, 4 cars pulled in the driveway. Kept me here to almost 12.
But that's exactly what happened when I first met you. I got there, and then all of a sudden, I just see cars keep rolling in, you know. And then when we started talking, the phone kept going, and so forth, right? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's typical. You know, some days are very quiet, especially rainy days. You know, it happens. But you know, you just make use of downtime. That's when you just do some cleaning up, ordering supplies, whatever else needs to be done.
Yeah. Do you ever deal with the horses at all, or you leave that for some other horse people?
No, I do some horse work. Not as much as I would like, to be honest. I do have a few clients at the racetrack who are pretty loyal, and I'm very grateful to them. Like anything else, you know, you've got to earn your way in. I remember when I first came home from university, the only people that would let me touch a horse was basically my dad and Sylvester Oliveira. Still had a horse called Too Hot to Handle, actually. And I remember treating her knees, but she did have some knee issues. And another trainer, I won't call his name, he lives in Canada right now, walked by and he was like, "Oh, that's a guinea pig for him to learn on." And 2 weeks later, the guinea pig one beat his horse. I still walked through the grandstand. A guinea pig beats a racehorse. You know, but obviously, you know, you have to earn your way in. You take some pretty harsh lashes along the way, but that's just part of it. Thankfully, horses are not how I make my living. Dogs and cats pay the bills. Horses run them up. So, you know, a few years ago, I actually felt like, you know what, I can go to Garrison, look at my horses, or horses for 1 or 2 owners that have been good to me from day one. People like Luther Miller, the third, Jonathan Simpson. They were the ones that, guys, obviously, a couple of the other small guys, Eddie Bell, they're the ones that gave me a shot. Actually, I think it's ironic that the first top class horse I was able to do anything with, that was ever called to, that wasn't my dad's. It was a horse that came from Trinidad, owned and trained by Mr. Maniram Mirage, or as we called him, Baboy Mirage. And this is a man that really met me when I was at university. But that's just what it is. I think Barbadian owners and trainers tend to be a bit conservative, and this is who they know and this is who they trust. I even could look back at when I was doing my final year project. The owners and trainers in Trinidad bent over backwards to help me get enough animals for my study. While in Barbados, it was a lot more difficult.
Now, I want to stop I want to pause because I want to touch on that, because I think what you're saying could be actually a learning point for a lot of us. And I'm just wondering, do you think since that time, people's attitude towards business have changed, or is it pretty much the same? Who you know?
It's pretty much the same. I think what has happened is, you know, situations have come up where you earn the trust of someone. And they see you working for one stable and a couple of good horses, and word gets around, oh, you know, you had a good result with this, or you had a good result with that. And then other people start to say, well, then my horse is sick, or my horse is sore. Dr. X or Dr. Y isn't available, but Dean's here, let him have a look at it. And, you know, that works. Also, Jonathan Simpson and I, for example, we had a horse that we discovered had some issues, and Jonathan actually got the horse, asked me to look at it, and then one night after golf, you know, we were going through what I found, and he was like, "Well, can you treat it?" I said, "Yeah," and you know, he turned out to win a couple of races. He didn't become a world beater, but he was able to win, I think, his second start with us. And I got to say kudos there to Rashawn Latchman, who rode him, because I would never forget, came in the parade ring, and Jonathan looked at him and he said, "Don't worry, Jonathan. I got this. This horse is going in front and stopping all the time. I'm going to hold him up and bring him with a run." And it worked.
You know, Rashawn Lashman, that's the kid that rides in the U.S.
Charleston, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool.
My dad actually gave him his first ride, and for day one, I always thought he was really talented, and so great to see him doing so well out there.
Are you good at spotting talent when it comes to jockeys?
I wouldn't know if I wouldn't go that far. I think the problem is getting a rider to get an opportunity to ride a live horse. My dad did give Chris Husband. I would say my dad was talented at doing that. I mean, he gave Chris Husbands his first ride, Randy Cumberbatch, Rashawn Latchman. I think I look beyond just being able to have won a race, because if a guy rides a horse that's a no-hoper and it runs third, for example, he had to have something there. That's why for example, there's a guy here, Shaquille Bellamy, who's still starting to get a few rides. Mm-hmm. I actually really like him as a talent. I'm not knocking any other guys. It's just that there's something about him that caught my eye, and he was not getting many rides. In fact, for the whole of last year, I think his best ride was an apprentice race where he finished second. And then I got involved with a horse with Jonathan under the condition that we were going to give this kid a chance. And so far, I've not been disappointed. He's not won as many races as we would both like, but he has won 3 races. He actually won his first race on the same horse that I got involved with just to help him out. And I think that's the thing. It doesn't matter how good you are. If someone doesn't see it, or doesn't like you, or doesn't believe in you and give you the opportunity, it's never going to happen. Riding bad horses make you look bad. Riding good horses make you look good. But someone has to give you that opportunity to ride a competitive horse. Now, not everyone that gets to ride competitive horses are going to make it. Some are going to fall by the wayside, either because of weight, talent, dedication. There's so many things involved. But horse racing, unlike, let's say, golf or tennis, where if you can play golf, you can play golf. If you're a good golfer, you're a good golfer. You don't need someone else to say you can play golf. You go on the golf course, you pick up your clubs, your balls, you shoot well, you score well, you're a good golfer. Don't care how good a jockey you are. Don't care how hard you try, how hard you work. If no one gives you a horse that's competitive, you'll never be seen. I mean, if you ride a horse that's running 15 lengths behind the field, every time you get a ride, that's what you're riding, you're never going to look good. You're never going to win races. You're never going to get the opportunity. Unless someone goes, there's something about you, or something happens by fate and you get that opportunity. The key thing is when you get that opportunity, I think you just got to make the best of it.
No, I agree. What if I wanna push a little bit on that, because what if you were a talented jockey, but you just don't handle business properly, or you can't see the bigger picture?
Like I said, it's there are a lot of people who are good riders of horses, but that does not make them good jockeys. To me, a good jockey is that guy that has it all. The professionalism, the ability to talk to owners and trainers, the way they dress, the way they carry themselves, the research they do on the horses that they're riding or riding against, knowing the other riders' strong points, weak points. the horses, how they run, their form, all of that makes a good jockey. Because you can be a very talented rider, but if you are one of these guys that comes in the parade ring and doesn't know anything about the horse you're riding, has not done any, doesn't have any idea of its form, its running style, and you just think you're going to get on and ride because you can ride, I don't think you're going to go very far.
So in fairness, Dean, we need a full package. You need a full package to be a good
jockey. For example, I'm sure there are guys who I've seen that can ride as good as, let's say, Patrick Husbands. But Patrick was the professional. He carried himself well. He behaved himself in a certain manner. He did his homework. I remember when I was at university, Patrick would sometimes come to Trinidad to ride. He would sometimes just hang out. He would stay at my house. And even when he was in Canada, one year I spent about a week or so working with a vet up there, and I stayed with Patrick. And Patrick came home from races, and he took out or morning after work, and he would sit down, go through every race. He would say, well, this horse likes to be here, that horse likes that, this horse is do this, this jockey tends to do this. So he did his homework. He did it. And Chris Griffith, another one that knew what was going on in the horses he was riding, but also the horses he was racing against. So that's what they had.
So let me put it this way. So for future jockeys and for upcoming jockeys, if you want to be great, the benchmark is Patrick Husbands. You gotta live up to that standard. You gotta do much better than him.
You've got to have the attitude. I mean, not many people are going to have the raw talent that Patrick has, but Patrick had the other things. And you may not be as talented as Patrick as a writer, but if you did the other things right, chances are that the opportunities will come and you'll take advantage of them.
Well, I mean, well said. I mean, to be honest, he's one of the best. So why not try to live up to that standard or even better?
Yeah, and you talk about like guys like Rocco. Rocco's has the same attitude, that work ethic. You've got to put in the work if you're going to have the success. And I think that goes just for everything. I play golf badly, but I have a book by Tiger Woods, and it says probably amateur golfers is they don't realize what it takes to be a professional golfer. It says it's the number of golf balls he hits every day, the hours in the gym, the whatever. You talk about Kobe Bryant having the Mamba mentality, where he was the first guy at practice, the last guy to leave. If you're not going to put in that effort, you're not going to succeed. You may get by with raw talent and do well. You may get by, especially if you have a weak jockey colony. But if you have a good jockey colony, guys that put in the extra effort are the ones that are going to succeed. And I think that goes for just about any sport.
Now, speaking of that, because we were speaking of horse racing, there's a bunch of jockeys that always come in from Barbados. To be honest, I just shared a Woodbine link just yesterday, I believe. It featured it was about the King Split, and your friend Ted Stenholder, he was part of it as well. But it just tells you that there's lots of horsemen coming up from Barbados and who are at Woodbine. Now, in Barbados, are you seeing lots of improvement and the way how the guys are doing their work?
Well, yeah, there's that, and I think one of the things is this: because a lot of Barbadian riders or grooms, etc., go abroad, it creates space for the other guys to come in. And I always said it, all the Canadians right now all the Barbadians riding in Canada really should have thanked Ricky Griffith for opening the doors. He and Anthony Husbands and Chris Griffith, the first guys that way. But without a doubt, Barbados does have talent. It's just the opportunities are there. I always say, you give Patrick Husbands and Frankie Dettori, you give Slade Callahan and Ryan Moore the same horses, the results are not going to vary very much. Rocco Boyne is another one that comes to mind. Rashawn Latchman. It just is. It. I think Will Shoemaker said it best. Winning a horse race is 90% between your legs. It's horse racing. It's not jockey racing. It's not owner racing. It's not trainer racing. It's horse racing.
You know, the one thing that I think the public and the international horse racing fan base would all agree to is that with personalities like Frankie Dettori and those guys, they just know how to deal with the public. You know, I think there's one thing lacking with some of the jockeys is learning how to deal with the public and the media.
Well, not everyone is extrovert. I mean, you take Ryan Moore, for example. Ryan Moore is very professional, but he's not the exuberant character that Frankie is. You know, Frankie is, I mean, you can't help but like him. You know, the flying, the smile, the kissing the camera, the kissing the horse. Ryan may give a smile and a little nod, but that's about it. It's just different personalities. But yeah, I also would love to see a situation where our writers get to spend a little more time talking in front of a camera, being more comfortable with their ability to speak, their breathing, the whole 9 yards. But once again, there's limited opportunities here. I mean, we race twice a month. We have 25 race days a year. So there are limited opportunities as far as that goes. But I think what has also happened here is that there was a time when the average rider in Barbados was a boy that just got put on a horse and told this is what to do. And if he could ride a little bit, even better. They were not the most educated. But now you've got, then that changed, you know, you got guys who are well-read, went to high school, have careers after riding. Think of a guy like Darwin Clark, Chris Griffith, Neil Brewster, Slade Callahan. You know, these guys are educated. They can hold a conversation with anyone in any situation. Yeah, they're as comfortable in a rum shop as there are at Mr. So-and-so's residence, you know.
But aren't we all?
Unfortunately, that was not always so.
I mean, that's where we learn to play draft and dominoes and so forth, right? So
Yeah, but I mean, there are a lot of guys, you take them from that rum shop and you say, we're going to go to Mr. X's residence for dinner.
right.
And they're really a fish out of water back in the day. Well, I think today, most of our writers are a lot better equipped to handle that kind of situation.
Now speaking of that, because I do read, and I'm a part of the Garrison Savannah Facebook group, and I read a lot of the stuff that happens in there, and I just kind of, well, you know, I peek into many arenas because, you know, it helps me do my work, right? And I can tell that a lot of the jockeys and a lot of people, you know, we talk about education and so forth, and they can type and write pretty well. They're very good with their words.
Yeah, I mean, you take, for example, Ray Williams. I mean, the boy is well spoken, you know, and that goes for most of them today. That was not always the case. How they carry themselves, that has changed, you know. One of my big peeves with the young writers is I hate to see them come out of the jocks room and in a short pants and a t-shirt and a pair of slippers. I'm not saying they have to do like the guys did in the 60s and early 70s where they wear a jacket and tie. Barbados is very hot. But by the same token, you know, I try to drill into the young writers that I talk to. Dress like you come to work. Leave the jobs room like you've come to work, because this is your job. And remember, you write, let's say you write for me and you win, or you write for X and they win. They may want to take you to say, hey, we're going to this restaurant to celebrate. If you come out the jobs room dressed in a short pants and t-shirts, I, for one, am not taking to a nice restaurant to have dinner.
But you know, that being said, I think there's a misconception, you know, of having a jacket and tie, or not even a tie, but just a jacket, you know, a blazer or whatever, right? You talk about Barbados being too hot, but to be quite honest, you don't have to have a heavy blazer or a
No, I'm
heavy
just
jacket
saying,
on.
okay, you could come out wearing, like, I don't go to races in a jacket and tie, but I sat for Gold Cup Day. But, you know, a nice polo shirt, a nice clean, well cut pair of jeans, it's fine, you know, a button down shirt. And, you know, when we had the jockey challenges, I tried to point out to the young riders, look how Frankie the Tories and those guys are dressing, Chris Griffith. Yes, they weren't. Okay, Chris didn't have on a jacket and tie, but he had on a nice pair of jeans, a nice shirt. You could go somewhere and have a dinner, have a meal.
I mean, you're absolutely correct. I think, you know, for many people, they have it wrong. Like, some people think if maybe people don't have the money to buy a sweater or
Well,
something.
maybe, but there's also this thing, you know. I also say this, but it has to come from the top down. You can't have trainers and owners turning up at races dressed any old how either. You know, maybe I'm a little old-fashioned, but I believe that when you go into the parade ring, you should have on decent attire. I'm not saying, once again, I'm not saying dress to the nines, but as an owner or a guest of an owner, and you're going to lead in, you're going to be dressed a certain way. At least there has to be some standard. You know, I'm wearing a t-shirt. I can't go on the golf course wearing a t-shirt to play golf. There's a time and place for everything. You wouldn't expect to see me come into my office to work barefoot, no shirt on, and a pair of baggies.
But
right?
what do you think causes that? What do you think causes guys to continue to carry that mentality? Even though now, because horse racing is not a cheap sport, so it's pretty expensive to feed a horse, to manage a horse. So why would a horse owner dress looking like an
it's just
important
times
person?
have changed. I think times are just changing. You don't see older owners dressed badly as a rule, but one or two younger owners do.
Explain dressing badly to me, Dr. Dean, because I think we're on the same page. But I think for others,
Turning up to, let's say, Barbados Derby Day, and you got a horse in the Derby, and you want to go in a parade ring in a pair of baggies, a t-shirt, and a pair of flip-flops or Crocs.
I don't think they wear baggies no more. I think they wear tight jeans that are dragging towards the knees. They don't wear baggy jeans no more.
That's also a generational thing. I'm not going to put it, but you know what I mean. I just think there's a type of dress for every occasion. That's me, and that goes for owners, trainers. I mean, even grooms. Luckily for me, I have an older groom, and he knows we talk a lot about stuff like that, and he obviously, like me, is kind of from the old school. And he will not come in the parade ring wearing short pants and a t-shirt that's torn up. He's going to present himself like that anywhere, anytime, you know?
I mean, to be fair, you know, I think there are standards. And myself and Darwin Clark, we had a conversation. We talk about standards, about, you know, etiquette and stuff like that. And I think there's something that to be held about that. And I think that if you're a horse owner, it means to me that you're trying to make lots of money. You're trying to be involved in the sport. You're trying to, I don't know.
Not in Barbados. You're not hoping to make lots of money. You're just hoping that you can help pay the bills. But I think it's, you know, it's just a matter of times are changing. Like I said, maybe I'm just a bit old-fashioned.
Well, you know, I think there's a bit of old-fashioned in every one of us, especially once you reach maybe past a certain age.
That's a long time ago.
Well, you get older, you get wiser. So I think people smarten up as they get older. You don't want your kids and grandkids to be doing the same
Well,
things
there's
that you're
that as
doing when
well
you're
as
50
this,
or
you know.
60.
I'll also say this. There's no way that my generation, and I say my generation, my age group that started writing back in the 80s, would have been allowed to leave the Jaws room dressed inappropriately. We would have got pulled up by Ricky Griffith, Alice Richards, Godfrey Griffith. Those guys would have pulled us up and said, hey, that doesn't cut it.
So
And we
is there no
knew that
one that does
before we
that?
got there, that would have cut it.
So Dr. Dean, so there's no one that can tell the other person, hey, look, maybe you should shape yourself up and maybe carry yourself in this manner?
I think there are a couple of guys that have tried as far as being older writers go. But, not everyone takes heed. I'll have to say this, the ones that I've spoken to, and I know a couple that, for example, Anderson Trotman has spoken to, when they leave the Jaws room, they're not, like I said, they're not dressed to be nice, but you could take them to somewhere after races without being embarrassed about how they look, just by how when they walk in.
You know what? You saying that to me now makes me wonder. I think some of those jockeys, once they start to grow, they should be able to take you out to dinner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let's not get carried away.
Hey, look, you touched a little bit about Ray Williams, and I read through some of the posts, and I saw that he made a few posts pertaining to his ride on Dominus. I don't follow the races that well in Barbados, but I do tune into the better races. And what do you think? What do you think about him responding to the public? Actually, do you think it's a must, or you should avoid those kind of situations?
To each his own. I would not respond. I try not to. And if you're going to respond, you've got to choose the words very carefully. If Ray chose to respond, obviously someone had pushed the wrong buttons. But if he responds and it's not, how should I put it, insulting or obscene, I think everyone has a right to state their own case. I personally choose to avoid social media, stuff like that, because I know that it's very easy to sit back in the grandstand and be critical of a writer, be critical of a commentator, be critical of a room. I mean, you got people that would tell you that Brian Lara can't bat. If he chose to respond, once he did it in a professional manner, and then go off on a rant with a lot of expletives and so on, so be it. It's not how I would do it, but to each their own.
Well, I mean,
but I don't have a problem with him responding. Once he did it, knowing Ray, I would be disappointed if his response was filled with a lot of curse words and that kind of stuff. I don't think that's his normal behavior.
No, I read what he said, and I think they were pretty good. I think they were pretty cool, and I think he had rights to say what he had to say, and there's nothing wrong with what he said. But
I think there's also this: anyone that questions Ray's ability as a jockey, his record is there for all to see. He's a sovereign award winner. You don't get that just by being able to hold a pair of reins and have a horse between your legs. He's a talented rider. Every jockey makes mistakes. Every person makes mistakes. He's human. So, yeah, he's not the first jockey to ever get disqualified. He won't be the last. I think a lot of people were emotional because Dominus is a very popular horse. The owner and the stable are also very popular. And for many, it was very disappointing to have the horse disqualified. And Probably some people made some unfair comments, but it's just one race. Ray will move on. Dominus will hopefully race and win again, and we'll forget about it. It's one race.
But is it almost avoidable for writers in Barbados to not engage with the public because Barbados being so small in proximity, people who are bunched up on each other, like the racing fans, at least the ones who are in the same communities, is it kind of really unavoidable to
It is
not
unavoidable, but how you respond makes a big difference, I think. Don't be. I would advise anyone, just don't get dragged into a war of words. Someone will say you can't ride, or you do this wrong, or you should be riding ponies on a merry-go-round, whatever other insult they could come up with. I think the important thing is just rise above it. I remember Chris Griffith telling me one day that going down to the start for his first ride, he was getting hassled and he hadn't even a chance to mess up yet, and that's just the way it is. Yes, it's very close knit, and a lot of people take liberties with you. But I'll also say this: a lot of people that have those things to say on social media will never come up to Ray Williams to his face, or come up to Lester Edwards in their face, or any other writer and insult them. Unfortunately, social media has given people the ability to say whatever they feel like about other people. Some very hurtful comments, some derogatory comments, negative comments, very few positive unless you're doing extremely spectral. Then all of a sudden everyone's your friend. They like you. Without fear of being called upon it. Or as Mike Tyson said, being punched in the mouth. But, it's inevitable there are going to be those that are going to, once you do something in the public side, you're going to have those that like you, those that don't like you, and a large percentage in the middle. And you've got to find a way to just tune out those that don't like you, and also to some degree those that do like you, because some of the ones that do like you would not be brutally honest. And there's a difference between criticizing, offering constructive criticism, and pulling someone down. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't know the difference, and especially when they get on social media.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I mean, we've all had our battles. I'm pretty sure you've probably had yours. You probably had your fair criticism.
Yeah, I mean, I always find it funny, actually. My biggest critics are in Barbados. The people that seem to like me the most are the ones that don't live here. The ones that come to races when they're on holiday here for the winter and that kind of stuff. And that's just the way it goes, though. You can't please everyone. There are going to be people that prefer to hear Neil. There are going to be people that prefer to hear Lyndon. There's some that are going to prefer to hear me. There's some that are going to, despite whatever I do, it's going to be never good enough. And that's something I just accepted. On an average race day, 100 horses will race at the Garrison. If Neil and I make a mistake each, that means that we got 98 right. But no one remembers that 98. They always remember that. It's just part of it.
I want to ask you a question when it comes to the calling of the races.
People also will remember this. Neither of us, Neil, myself, Lyndon, or even Philip, who's now coming into it, none of us are professional race callers. It is not how we make our daily bread. We do this every 2 weeks, 25 days a year.
Well, that's what I want to ask you. Do you get paid for that?
Yeah, we get a little something, but it's not like we can't live off of it. I definitely couldn't live off of it. It comes in handy. It helps offset the fact I have to pay another vet to work on a race day. But even then, some days, and that's the other thing people have to understand. Neil is a school teacher. Philip is a school teacher. Lyndon is a journalist. I'm a veterinarian. sometimes there's a little bit of fatigue involved. I've had to finish the surgery at 12 o'clock, and the first race starts at 1, and I'm just running upstairs, having a quick shower, grabbing some clothes, putting on my shoes and socks at the Garrison, skipping lunch, So I've gone to races already, mentally tired. And once again, like I said, it is not that we do this 4 or 5 days a week. And even the guys that do it 4 or 5 days a week make mistakes. It's called being human.
Now, I want to challenge you on that, though, Dean, because I'm thinking if Barbados Turf Club, who's been around for a long time, you've got your schedule, you've got your calendar of races, and you probably can get a caller, someone who's going to call the races and be ready for that occasion, and not having to do a surgery early in the day.
Yeah, but what I'm saying,
why doesn't that happen?
I don't work on clinic. That's why I hired that one of the vets works on Saturdays for me. But emergencies do happen. There's that. It is still my business, so I still have to pay attention to it sometimes, even though it's my off day. And like I said, at the end of the day, we don't do it. We're not calling 7 or 8 races a day, 5 days a week. And it's not something that you can sit down at home and look at a TV and do, because if you know the result of the race and how the race ran, it's not the same. We don't call races off a monitor. We use binoculars. There's no rehearsals. There's no practice runs. And like I said, at the end of the day, some people are going to like you, some people are not. That's just the way it is. There's some people that liked Mike Goddard. There's some people that prefer Dave Bernard. There's some people that didn't like Mike Goddard. There's some people that didn't like Dave Bernard. The same can be said for Kelly Walker. The same can be said for Trevor Diamond. I've heard people that didn't like Tom Durkin. They just, and every commentator will blow a call. It is not that you blow a call, it's how you respond to it. That's how I look at it,
I do enjoy you guys. I listen to you guys, and I enjoy it. I enjoy some of the funny stuff that you guys say at the end as well. But I'm just wondering, why are there 3 of you guys? Why not 1?
Well, basically, Philip is kind of learning now. But remember, we also used to do this for the radio stations. So basically, we had to talk to the radio stations to hear. And then, so while one person is doing the radio station coverage, the odds, the runners or writers, the color commentary sort of stuff, the other person is preparing to call the races. So it's not like you don't see Larry Collins going blah 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 for 20 minutes before the race and then call a race. He's that is going on. He's calling the race. It's just that we don't have facilities to have 2 or 3 cameras set up here and there, and once again, it's a budgetary thing, and it also provides a little backup, because once again, if something happens, let's say I was the only person calling races, and something happens to me for whatever reason, they can't get the races. Need someone that has some experience in doing it, So that's why we do it that way. It also because you got to remember, we are race fans as well. And Neil is also part owner of a horse. I have horses. I don't want to call a race that my horse is running in.
Right.
Neil doesn't. You want to be able to say, no, watch your horse. You know what I mean?
Does that make it tougher, being owner, you being part owner, just being involved? How tough is it emotionally as well to call races? When you might have some connections. Neil might have a horse and you're calling the race, but do you feel like you want to win?
I've done it when my dad had horses running, when I've had horses running. The truth is, once the race starts, you're too busy doing the call to really get too emotional about it while you're doing it. Like I mentioned, you gave that young boy, Shaquille Bellamy, his first win on Sid, who had our own. And I called the races that day. That was during COVID, and you're only allowed one commentator in the box and that kind of stuff, or something like that. But at the end of the day, I called the race with, and that's I didn't focus on him. I just called the race. But yeah, it would have been a lot nicer to be able to get on to be able to be the grandson. But come on, Sid, come on. But obviously, you can't do that when you're calling the race.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, in horse racing, there's probably so much connection, so much relationships.
I think people in Barbados have to realize that Barbados has a very small racing community. So many of us have to wear many different hats. So the race framing committee is made up of a trainer and an owner, director of the club. The stewards, the reason we have stewards interchanging, and some days it's because this steward can't sit because his brother owns a horse in this race, or he owns a horse in that race. So you have to alternate the stewards. Because once again, it's such a limited group of people. How are you going to pull someone? Are you going to take someone and make them a steward who has no interest or knowledge of horse racing?
Now who chooses? Is it like a selection of stewards and people who are involved in the racing? How does that go about? Is it from the actual membership of the club, or what? How does it happen?
I think it's usually pulled from within knowledgeable members. People who are, we have, for example, Brett Callahan, who was a jockey. Jeffrey Chandler, who was a steward, was a trainer. But you try to pull, I think the director's trying to pull people who they believe have a good understanding of the rules and the application of the rules. But of course, you're never going to get it all right 100% of the time. And that's just the way it goes.
Very interesting. I want to ask you about the horse racing in Barbados and the fans and the horse owners. What's more important? Do you think horse racing means more to the fans or means more to the horse racing owners in Barbados?
I think most of the owners or owners that were fans that found a way to afford to have a share or a piece of a horse. I don't think it means more to anyone in particular. I think though a lot of fans do get more emotional about it. You take, for example, this situation with Dominus being disqualified. I was told from very good sources that Sir David just shrugged his shoulders and said, these things happen. Well, there are some of the fans, went ballistic. I remember a lot of Hopefield fans were really annoyed at me because Sir David had a horse called Lord Blackadder. And I said he only beat the ambulance. And they were really riled up. So a couple of weeks later, I was at dinner by Jonathan Simpson's parents. And I was sitting down chatting with Sir David. And in walks Jonathan. And his mouth has no cover. He goes, "Hi, Uncle Parky. I see you sitting down talking with a man. I say a horse could only be the ambulance." And Sir David said, "Well, it's lucky to be that." And he wasn't offended by it, but a lot of race fans, a lot of Hopefield fans were. That's just how it goes, I think some owners do take it a little too serious and a little too personal. I think some fans also take it a little too personal. You've got to accept, if my horse runs last, it runs last. I remember one owner being real upset because Lyndon Yard said his horse started last, stayed last, and finished last. And the man was really upset about this.
Was it true? Was it true?
It was true. But what was actually even more annoying for the man is that his daughter used to watch the race over and over again and laugh because Daddy's horse started last, stayed last, or finished last. No, but some people just are very thin-skinned. They can't take a joke being made about their horse or a particular situation. Some things I've decided to drop. Like I used to say, for example, call the ambulance because who ain't dead, badly wounded. Or I remember saying once, I'm going to pause for a moment of silence and say nothing for a few seconds and then said such and such has left this field for dead. And it bothered me because one day, and I know it had nothing to do with it. It's not, I didn't know this would happen. But one of the horses in one of those races where he said that actually died after the race. And it just really, I just took it out of my game for a while. It may come a time where I may use it again, but I felt really bad for that owner. And that horse. I mean, we accept that injuries will happen to race horses, but we don't ever want to see it.
Right. Correct. Now, speaking of injuries and so forth, in Barbados, drugs are not allowed, but medicine is allowed, right? So you're allowed to medicate, fix health.
Well, we do have a zero tolerance policy for most drugs. Obviously, certain worm medicines are allowed, certain antibiotics are allowed without a problem. And you've got to be careful with your clearance times. We do. So, for example, a drug that may be allowed in North America within 24 hours, for us, it may be 72 hours. But I don't think we really have a doping problem here. I think most of our positives are accidental. Where, for example, a horse is treated and should eliminate a drug, let's say 96 hours, but for some reason, even if you give it an extra day or two, for some reason it didn't eliminate all of it and a trace goes up in the urine, and it's a positive. I don't think there's any real intention to cheat as such. The purses aren't worth it. Your reputation isn't worth it. It's not worth it to do, it just doesn't make sense.
I think there's a lot of unpeeling. Well, and I say it mainly because Barbados is very small, so the mistrust and stuff like that happens because you have a tiny body of people in the horse racing community.
I don't think that's right. I think we are still pretty much tied to the international racing regulations. BHA, for example. I think because there have been always been and always will be one or two people that will try to cheat. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everyone is squeaky clean. I just think that the majority of our positives are things like phenylbutazone that the horse just didn't eliminate fast enough, or depomedrol, or triamcinolone, or one of those drugs that we routinely use. We try to say, okay, well, the BHA recommendation for detection time is 3 days, so we'll go 5 days, 6 days out. But the horse didn't really buck, and sometimes you just got a positive.
Fair enough. We talk about you calling the races in Barbados, and you running your clinic as well. And we talk about many things. There's always an argument. Every now and then when I get in conversation with people from Barbados who are still involved in racing, or people living in Barbados, we talk about stuff like having another racetrack. Does it make sense?
It would be a wonderful thing. It would be wonderful to have a dirt track and a turf track. It would be wonderful to have a 2.5 furlong, 3 furlong stretch. It would be lovely to have a much better facility, a much better surface. It would be wonderful to have, for me as a commentator, a much nicer country box, better angle to see the finishes at, higher elevations, better lighting, all of that stuff. But people have to remember, it's not just a racetrack. You've now got to also build grandstands, offices, stables. The cost would be prohibitive, to say the least. I mean, I can't see it being under 100 million. And where's that money going to come from? That comes down to the end of it. Where is the money going? Yes, it would be wonderful. Oh God, it would be. But I mean, I would love a country box that you want a Gulfstream Park. I mean, I would love that. But where's the money going to come from? At the end of the day, and you got to be careful because a new facility does not necessarily guarantee success. So unless you could build a new facility, but unless you find a way to attract, okay, right now in Barbados, we have about 100 horses in training. I would say we probably have 50 owners, maybe. Unless you're going to attract another 100 owners, so we could get our racing population, horse population up to 200-300 horses. Where's the money going to come from? How are you going to get a return on your investment? You know, it's like, yeah, it'd be great. I don't think anyone who likes racing would argue that. But then there's the other thing: are you going to guarantee success? Because one of the things that appeals to people at the Garrison is how close you get to the rails of the horses. So if you're going to have, are you going to have that? Or are you going to have to force people to come inside the facility to watch races? No. I'm not saying that can't work. I'm just looking at all the pros and cons, you know. And once again, I don't know. My biggest thing, my first question is, where will the money come from? Because even if, let's say, government said, okay, here's the land to build a racetrack. Great. That's 1/10 of the cost. You've got the land. You've now got to turn around and how much money to build the grandstand? How much money is going to cost to build the stables? So remember, a racetrack is not just about cutting the grass out in any shape you want it to. You got rails, you got irrigation, drainage, timing systems. All of that has to be accounted for. And then the stables, you've got to build stables, you've got to have water, you've got to have electricity set up. It's not as easy as people think it is. It would be nice.
I agree with you. I agree with you that it's not cheap and it's not easy. But
then you've got to have an atmosphere.
I'm thinking more of future. I'm thinking more of progress. I'm thinking more of something 20, 25, 30 years from now. Do you still stick with what you got and stay with it?
Sometimes you have no choice. I think the truth is, sometimes you just have no choice.
No, I agree with you when it comes to budget wise, but I do push back a little bit because I think the same thing could have been said when you had Glendaire Prison and you no longer have it and it's gone. You know,
but you know, so I'm just thinking along those lines. Horse racing in Barbados, except for a small percentage of the people involved, it's a hobby. Right. We got to accept that. We don't generate enough revenue from gambling to do it. We don't have big casinos with millions of dollars turning over. We just don't have that.
Is there a chance though? Is there a chance? Is there a chance? I'm just thinking because I'm a creative thinker, right? So I'm thinking, is there a chance though? Is there not a chance though? Is there not a chance to get some good cameras, let those beaches be seen, you know, put those bright lights on and focus on those races and the jockeys and the horse racing and events and get it out there where people can see it. Just like
Like
came out
everything else,
those
there is
kind of
room for
tracks.
improvement. There is room for improvement. There always is. I mean, uh, I just don't know if the Barbadian public is not a heavy gambling public. That's
That's
a
and
big.
And that's exactly
That's
what I mean. You get that product out there and on the international scale where those cameras, those mics,
um,
and everything is all tuned up properly, and let the world see.
yeah, there is that. I mean, I think Turf Club is trying. Is it perfect? No. There's always room for improvement. I mean, we've had some ideas. I remember one World Cup day, we took turns being downstairs, uh, doing a little banter between races between the country team, talking about the horses, who we like for the races, and that kind of stuff. And maybe that's the way we should be looking at going now. Um, to make that a permanent setup where maybe one person calls the races, maybe we do it where maybe Neil calls one day, I do it another day, and we sit downstairs and we do a lot more banter and stuff like that with Lyndon. But there are challenges there as well. You know, do we have the equipment to do it properly? And you know, people have to understand that everything comes with a cost attached to it. And I don't know if we really have what it takes financially to do that. I mean, let's be really honest. You have 300 horses in training on the Garrison. 290 of the 300 horses, 250 lose money, 25 break even, and 25 make a small profit. The Barbados Turf Club loses money on nearly every race day except for, I think, Boxing Day, a couple other days, and Gold Cup Day. That is the reality of where we are. How do we change that? I don't know. I wish I had the answers, but I don't. I really just don't. A new facility would be lovely. I just don't know where we're going to fund it from. People said, "Oh, we should have taken the money from the China Horse Club." Look what they did in St. Lucia. You do realize that nearly all the horses that were raced in St. Lucia are now in Barbados.
But is there anything? I was just pushing a little bit on the new facility, but is there anything wrong with the Garrison?
It's tough to have a turf track take the amount of racing that we ask ours to do. You know, whether the track is soft or firm, we run on that. You don't have a shifting rail that we can move. It's not wide enough that we can say we can move the rail out 12 feet or move it back in 10 feet today, 12 feet tomorrow, and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, the guys that maintain the track, they've got their job really cut out for them, especially when we race from now all the way through to, I think it's the end of April, May, before we get a real break.
So are you guys racing every Saturday from now?
Every other Saturday.
Every other Saturday.
Yeah, but let's take it. You know, we don't have the ability to go, well, okay, it's raining, so we're going to take 5 races off the turf and put them on the dirt. You know, it's raining, the track is soft, we got to run on it. Everybody got to run on it. I'm pretty sure you'll be hard pressed to find any track that runs 100 horses a day on their turf track, no matter what the conditions are, from their bottom end to their top end. That's a challenge. I mean, there's that. There are always things that can be improved on Garrison, but you know, people said, "Oh, we should get a racing authority like Trinidad." Trinidad now has, I think, last thing I heard, it had less than 60 horses on the classification list.
Wow.
Their racing is basically ICU, you know. So having a racing authority isn't the solution. And I just don't know. Maybe if we had, you know, the lottery does help. I think the lottery has been a big help. Maybe it could. I wish it could give us a bit more. But cricket is king still in the eyes of many Barbadians. Maybe a better marketing plan. Maybe that can help. I don't know enough about that side of the game to say that what they should or shouldn't do as far as marketing goes. I think like anything else, there's probably room for improvement there as well. But as to what the target is and how you're going to go about it, I'm going to claim to have the answers. It's not my forte. It's not.
Now, I want to ask you about those comments, because no, your comments are obviously personal, or are you speaking on behalf of the B2C?
It's personal. I am in no position to talk on behalf of the BDC. I'm not a member of the club. I don't see the financial statements. But I go to track frequently, and I sit down with the members, and I hear the conversations that go on as well. But the reality is, I also recognize that when I look in the grandstand on a race day, and I see 50 Barbadians and 60 tourists, that is not going to cut enough gambling to make the club profitable. I know that the lottery supports the club. We all know that. That's common knowledge. How do we get more financing? I don't know. I just don't have the answers to that question. Like I said, I'm not an accountant. I'm not an economist. I'm not a financial guru of any sort. I seem to be.
Well, these days, a lot of racetracks, there's really not a lot of fans on the track. Most fans, especially here in North America, are behind their phones or their computers.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it now. So I mean, I think tracks are getting creative.
Well, I do believe the club has online betting available and that kind of stuff. They do show the races live on the internet, on their website, and so on. But have they been able to negotiate any significant deal to get added revenue in and betting that way? I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not sure the inner workings of that kind of stuff. That's a little above my pay grade. Yes, of course, it'd be nice if we can get more bettors in North America and so on to bet. But once again, Americans tend to bet on racing. People tend to bet on what they're familiar with. You may get more betting, let's say in a European situation, a UK situation, because the club may be able to attract those bettors more because the horses are not going in the wrong direction. Sort of attitude. I remember someone messaging me about some comment that was made in one of these social media groups. Once again, like I said, I tend to stay off of them. They're just finding just too much negative comments about everyone and everything else. And some people get personal. It's just not necessary. I already enough stress in my life with work. Being work on golf and horses, I want to race horses is enough stress. But no, on a serious note about we need a U-track so that we can run in the other direction like all the other race tracks. And I thought to myself, this person obviously doesn't know enough about racing, because you go to England, you're going to see horses running left-handed, right-handed, and straight. Australia. You go to France, they're going to go both ways. The only places in the world where horses run only that have multiple tracks and all the racing goes in the same direction is in North America.
Well, they say they don't want to confuse. Some of the trainers say that they don't want to confuse the horses because they're creatures of habits.
Listen, excuses. I remember when Woodbine ran the European sprints, running the other direction on the turf. I remember Chris and I were driving down from Woodbine after races. He said, when he was going to John's room, some writer asked if he was worried about going the other direction, and Chris was like, nah. During the race, he said, this guy was screaming behind him. And he looked over his shoulder and said, this guy's got space. And Crawford was on his outside, and Crawford said, hey, don't worry about him, man. He just scared, Horses will run in any direction. They go to, if that made sense, then horses in England would not race left-handed all right. You only have some horses that race left-handed, so the horses that run in the Derby, they must be really confused. In the Epsom Derby, must be really confused because they come out the gates, they turn right, and then they turn left down a hill and finish up a hill. Right? I mean, or I can't remember which track it is. Where it's kind of I can't remember which track it is in the UK, but there's certain trips that actually don't use the starting stalls. And the horses run up the stretch, turn left, turn right, and then come back down the stretch to be finished. That was really confusing then. I mean, I don't think it makes a difference to horses. I mean, like anything else, some horses may be better. And if they're always going right-handed and left-handed, they may find it hard to adapt to going right-handed for the first time. But once they see the track and they see the corner, they pretty much figure out how to go around the corner. So I really don't buy that. I think most jockeys prefer to go the other direction.
Well, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, because most people are right-handed. So you don't have to, like here, when you're going right-handed on a track, you've got to learn to use it. As a rider, you probably have to learn to use your left hand, be more efficient with it. Well, if you're going in the other direction, it's not quite as big a deal. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But I don't think it really makes much difference in most horses.
Well, I mean, I guess the same argument when somebody was saying, I think I had them on the podcast last year or something, and they were talking about the horses running in the nighttime at the Garrison Savannah, and say usually that's the time when the horses are resting and sleeping, and to wake them up, to have them running at night. Well, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think it bothers the pattern of the horse as well? Do you think the horses are disturbed and should not be disturbed during that time? What do you think?
So, okay, my question to that is, what about all the other places that have night racing all around the world? That's just, people just try to find an excuse to not do something or to find
different?
a flaw.
Something that's new?
Different.
Something that's new?
Yeah.
Something different?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, honestly, I don't think the horses really give a damn. They know when they come down there and they get in that parade and they get a saddle on. Hey, it's showtime. Did the horses at Woodbine complain about it when they have any races? It's one of those things that I think people just over amplify. It's like the left-handed, right-handed thing. Horses in Europe race left-handed and right-handed. Hell, sometimes they do it in one race. I want to. Santa Anita, the downhill sprint. They turn right, then they turn left.
Mm-hmm. Correct. That's actually
so you're not going to go for that $1 million breeders' $1 million purse because you don't want to confuse your horse. Come on.
That's actually pretty cool. That one coming down from Santa Anita.
Yeah,
and then they run awesome. off the dirt track a little bit, just a little bit, and
yeah, I love to watch it.
I want to ask you about the horsemen from our island, Barbados, and the level of experience that we are now seeing. A lot of the youngsters that we would call youngsters are starting to really do well with the little that they have. We've just seen a horse like Rat Portage and the connections to that horse. And that horse has done really well this year at Woodbine. Just ran in a good race yesterday and ran a big second, but
Yeah. No, I think one of the things the guys have here is passion. It's not just a job. The grooms get attached to the horses. Everyone's passionate about it. And that translates when they go to Canada as well. The guys are passionate about their horses. Sometimes to the point they may be even too passionate. Um, but they're willing to put in once it still comes back to it, they come in and they put in that extra effort. I mean, some guys work hard without success, and some guys do get success. But you look at Ted with Kako Kaipu. You look at Nathan Squires last year with the horse that he took to Breeders' Cup. They're passionate about it. And because they're passionate about it, they're willing to work extra hard. They read more. They learn more. They look for every opportunity to get a little bit of knowledge. I mean, they'll discuss something with each other. And with that, success will come. Of course, you still got to get a quality horse, because Harvard doesn't do it alone. I mean, no one's going to take a natural $5,000 claimer and make it into a state horse. But I think because they work so hard, because they're willing to put that extra effort in. So let's take a guy who's working for a barn. And he's the first guy in the barn. He's the last guy to leave. He's the guy that can tell the trainer as a horse gets a bump on his shin, doesn't miss a pimple. Not surprising he's going to get any better horses to look after compared to the guy who turns up 10 minutes late, throws on a saddle, and wants to get the horse back in his stable as fast as he can. That's the difference as far as the horsemen go. I mean, and then the guys that put in the effort will invariably end up as trainers. An owner will notice them at some point, hopefully, and they'll get a couple wins here and there, and then they'll find that one horse that can hopefully take them to places they never dreamed of or they only dreamed of. And I think it's just a matter of time before you see the guys get more and more horses to train. They get a clientele. And as long as they keep putting in the effort, I think they'll succeed, because there's not a lack of talent, that's for sure.
Now you've got a few more months before the Gold Cup in Barbados, November, December, January, February, March, 4.5 months or so.
Months.
What are you expecting? What do you hope to see coming next year? You think it'll be bigger and better than last year's? Because last year was pretty successful in terms of the amount of people that showed up and supported. And what do you think can be done to draw those people back to the track?
The thing about Gold Cup, it has become pretty much like a national lime event stuff as far as spectators go. It'd be nice to have Ken Ramsey come again. I love having Ken here. He's always a fun person to be around, and he clearly loves coming. Also, there was talk about other horses that may or may not come as well, and hopefully they do. But once you can get some horses that are not based here turn up, that always is really good thing. But it'd be nice to get, I would say, if you could get at least 3 or 4 invaders to turn up, that would be wonderful. And maybe not just for the Gold Cup, but also for the spot.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I mean, it'd be really nice to see that. I know of a horse that may be coming. Not going to say anything because it's not my place to say it. But if he comes, that would be awesome, and hopefully, a couple other people would bring something as good, and we have a really good race.
Very interesting. Well, I can't wait to hear who that horse is, and I can't wait to hear more about these invaders. I think that Stuff like that
First of all,
spices up the races.
yeah, you know, and I think you're also friend of mine and I are also looking at one for the spa, but we'll see how that happens. What happens there depends on his money, not mine, really. But um, but yeah, it would be nice to have some invaders turn up for the Gold Cup and not have it just be locally based sources. Not knocking the locally based sources, because I always say a good race to me does not necessarily have to have 6 superstars. If you give me 6 evenly matched horses, I've got a good race.
Well, what about the jockeys? For example, my man Patrick Husbands won the what would have been the Queen Play. He won it 3 times now. You know what I'm saying?
Patrick, well, of course, it's always great to have Patrick right in here. Guys like Rocco and maybe Rashawn Lashman come back as well. But it's always the catch there. When they come back, you're denying one of the guys who's been here plugging away, trying to make a name for himself the opportunity.
But isn't that? So, but hang on a second, because
that's the game. That is the game. I understand that. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. Well, let's just put it this way, because most of the smaller tracks in North America, when there's a big day, a lot of the home-based riders take a back seat as well.
Yeah, like I said, that's the game. It's not the game that I play as an owner. The same horse I talked about earlier, my first horse in Trinidad, when he was going for his 3rd race, Patrick came to stay at my apartment, and then he realized the horse was running. This was about the Wednesday before the race. He told me, Dave, if you want to ride your horse, I'll get our friend Mooney to bring up my gear, and I'll ride it. He said, Patrick, I can't do that. If you can ride my horse from April all the way to February, you could ride it in the first Saturday of March. That's just me. I'm not saying that every owner has that. Hey, every owner has the right to look for the best possible job. Every job has the right to look for the best possible ride. But for me, loyalty is a big thing. Maybe I don't fit the game as others do. But no, I mean, it's always great to have Patrick and Rocco come home. It's great for the fans and that kind of stuff. But I could tell you from my perspective is, if I owned a horse in the Gold Cup and X was riding it all the time, X was going to ride it in the Gold Cup. That's just my perspective. But I'm not going to tell anyone, don't bring someone else in to ride. I mean, don't get me wrong. I tried to, when Frankie the Door was here, I tried to buy one of the horses he was riding just to have him ride for me.
So if Frankie the Tory shows up in Barbados, what would that be like at the Garrison Savannah?
Well, I mean, he came here before. I mean, he rode in Barbados.
But I mean, this time, if he comes this time.
If he comes this time, I think it would be amazing. I would love to see him come here. It would be wonderful to see him ride in Barbados at least one more time.
What are some of the things that would lure or attract Frankie the Tory to Barbados besides $250,000 US purse? What else is in Barbados that would attract Frankie the Tory?
I mean, Frankie was here running Jockeys Championship. There wasn't a big set of money available to him. Talking with him the night after races, he said it was just a blast. He enjoyed it. So did Karen Fallon. So, like I said, I mean, I don't expect him to come. He's got other commitments which are much more important. Of course, that was when things were a little rough for him, but it would be great. I mean, nearly everyone loves Frankie, So, we saw it. Frankie goes to Hollywood. Hey, Frankie, come to Barbados. It'd be great. But,
yeah, I got a chance to see him at Woodbine, and he definitely attracts a lot of attention. And
yeah, he's the Muhammad Ali of racing right now. Every sport has that person that has that personality that's bigger than like personality. You know, Muhammad Ali walked the walk, he talked the talk. Tiger was what he did for golf. Frankie Dettori has done it as far as being a jockey goes. I mean, I don't think I've seen another writer in my lifetime that had the personality of Frankie Dettori, except for maybe Angel Cordero. You know, that flamboyance that makes you want to be there. You know, and I'll be honest, you know, a lot of people think that, you know, because he's a big shot, he's going to be so aloof. But I remember Frankie come. I mean, the foreign team won that year, and we were in the Institutus Lounge at the Garrison, and Frankie ran in, and the lady, a big lady, that worked at the betting machines, and Frankie ran and jumped up into her arms, and it was like this one big lady pulled this little tiny man out of him. You know, he was like, "We won, we won." You know, it's just the personality that he has, and it's
That's
good
pretty.
for the sport.
That is awesome, man. You know, speaking with you, Dean, Dr. Dean, there's one thing I can say about the people who are surrounded horse racing in Barbados is that we can talk for hours about horse
Yeah.
racing or about anything. And I love it because the conversation is so vivid, you know, it's so alive, and we get to just actually speak rather than me asking questions about specific things. And I would like to see that continue and more guests like yourself to be on the show.
Well, I think it'd be really nice to talk to someone like Lyndon Yard and as well. Neil Gill. There's a young lady that I think is pretty knowledgeable as well, Raquel Stout. Maybe if you can get a conversation with someone like that, someone like Ray Williams, a couple other writers, really be, you know, interesting to see. Of course, you've got people like Jonathan Simpson who talk and talk. You know, but there are a number of people there, I think, that have a lot to offer. You know, everyone, you don't always agree about how it should be done, but I think, and hey, all of us want to just have, excuse me, a better product, a better day of racing, safer racetrack. I think that's the goal for all of us. I just don't know that we all have, which is the right path to take. But I can almost guarantee that, as I tell people all the time, I have not been associated with racing for my entire life. I've been committed to it. I think that goes for most of us. Guys like Richard Dean, who has been around for as long as I can remember. You know, you got to shout out a guy like Darren Clark, who left Barbados many years ago, was a jockey, a trainer, and has opted to invest back in racing in Barbados. And I got to say thank you, Bia, for that. We really wish more Barbadians that left Barbados to go overseas and have success in whatever way they could follow his example. You know, I think everyone here has seen what Safi Joseph Jr. has done. Kudos to him for 2 third places in the Breeders' Cup.
Well, it must be tough, though. I can't. I don't mean to cut you off, Dean, but it must be tough for him to see White Abario.
Yeah, it had to be. It has to be a tough pill to swallow.
Oh man!
But that's racing. I mean, Celestial Storm.
Yeah.
I wanted to buy her for myself, couldn't afford her. Mr. Parvacino bought her, and then I started up a watch her in the spa, and I had to call her with the Gold Cup. I mean, that was a bittersweet thing, but you know, I think at the end of the day, you know, that's racing. You're going to lose some horses, and they're going to do better. You're going to lose some horses, and they're going to do worse. But you're also going to get her horse from someone that, and your deal. I think Safi is only a matter of time before Safi gets his. Hopefully he will not be the only Barbadian to get his. I hope to see Nathan Squires, Sil Olivier, Ted Holder, all the guys. I want to see them do well. I want to see them. I want to see them. I look forward hopefully seeing a day where there's a horse out Breeders' Cup, Barbadian owned, Barbadian trained, Barbadian groomed, Barbadian rented. And hopefully it'll be wearing my colors, but is that doesn't matter. That's what I want to see. That to me will be ultimate to see a Barbadian owned trained ridden horse, groomed horse, Breeders' Cup winning or winning the Kentucky Derby or the King Split or King Split as it's called now, or any of those major races that we look forward to on the yearly calendar, whether it be in North America, the UK, it doesn't matter. I just think I think it will happen. I hope it happens, and I hope I'm around to see it. But once you guys keep pushing, it will happen. Their day will come. I think it's only a matter of time before Baba's days come, and hopefully, Ted Holder's day will come, and Sil Olivier's day will come. All the other barbers, Nico Lafon, everyone, their days will come.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of passionate trainers and people involved in racing from Barbados who are spreaded around the globe. Dean, look, it was a pleasure talking to you, my friend.
Yeah, it's way past my bedtime.
It's been quite a while, but it was a pleasure talking with you. Let me just put up your thing here again so that people know what you're involved with. This is your business, Eastern Veterinary Clinic.
Yeah, and that's me.
Dean not only deals with horses, but he deals with cats and dogs and
everything else.
Animals that you deal with?
I don't do many farm animals anymore. I just don't have the time. But no, if it's an animal, I'll see it once I can find the time. If it's farm animals, I will come out. Depending on once again, how my schedule is. Like I said, dogs and cats do pay the bills, but I do see birds, rabbits, the odd tortoise. Even had one snake and one pet lizard.
A tortoise, you said?
Yeah. Got run over by a lawnmower. Had to fix the shell. Wow. Fiberglass.
Animal lovers, man, they love all types of animals, man. It goes on and on and on and on. From the lizards all the way up.
Well, let's put it this way. My girlfriend has 6 horses, 9 dogs, 5 or 6 cats, a lost track, a turkey, and a pig.
A turkey and a pig.
I don't mean a little pig. I'm talking about 700, 800 pound boar.
Wow.
It is what it is.
Well, I guess that keeps you busy.
Yeah, more or less keeps her busy.
Oh, before we go, man, any predictions of who you think will be getting close to winning that Gold Cup for 2024? I mean, you don't have to name a horse because you're already being protective of who that horse might be that might be in Barbados, but I don't know. Any predictions?
I just say if that horse comes, the guys that are going to beat it are going to have to go shopping. But it's a little too early to get into prediction at this point because it seems like it's just around the corner. But in horse racing, it only takes a second for everything to go wrong. It's so hard just to get a horse to race sometimes. It's just too early at this thing. We don't know what's coming, who's going to go shopping. So I wouldn't even try to guess at this point.
So in your part of the woods in Barbados, is it normal for the owners to kind of like play possum and wait until see who shows up and then?
I think what will happen are a couple of owners that haven't won it might be tempted to go, okay, take a trainer there, contact Safi Joseph, Ted Holder, Nicola Fawn, whoever else I can't think of, Sil Olivier, or some other friend that they have, someone like Ronald Burke, who obviously is there, knows his age, jockey's agent. Contact and say, hey, look, I'm looking for a horse for a Gold Cup. This is my budget. Can you find me something? And that's what keeps it so fun, because at this stage, we don't have a clue who's coming. I mean, we don't know if Ken Ramsey's going to come, if he's going to come with 1, 2, 3. We know that there was some rumor about a couple other big stables that they're sending horses for the Gold Cup. So we just don't know at this stage what's going to turn up. But I'll tell you this much. I think when the first list of nominations come out, that's when the excitement will really start.
Well,
I know I'm not saying the horses.
We'll leave it like that. Hey, look, Dr. Dean, thank you for being on. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and let's hope to do this again. Put a word in for me to Neil and the other crew that I would love to have a conversation with them and talk just like this, very openly, about the racing in Barbados. Help promote it, help be part of it, and it was a pleasure talking to you, man.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Derek. It's a lot of fun. And of course, I'll tell Neil and Lyndon and the other guys, Philip, the other guys, listen out, get in contact, because it's not just about hearing my voice. I mean, yes, I'm the older guy, but they're the future. I mean, I think my time in the box is, I wouldn't want to put a time frame on it right now, but I don't see myself 10 years from now doing this,
I mean, it's fun. It's fun.
It's fun, but I mean, as far as calling races goes, there is a part of me that some days go, I just want to come races, have a beer, and enjoy it like everybody else.
And that's fair. And that's fair. That's fair.
I'm just saying, I've been doing it for a long time, and but also, like I said, everything else is for a season. I've had a great run with it. I've had a lot of support from the Barbados Turf Club directors. The CEO, Rosette Pierce, has been phenomenal. Always had my back, even when certain things were said that were unfortunate. And some personal attacks, I got to hand it to her for that. The directors of the club, and of course the sponsors, because I mean, if for example, Saturday they said, hey, no, we don't want this guy, so I gotta say thanks to everyone that's backed me this far. I don't know how much further I'll go. I mean, I'm not saying I don't have a time in my head that I'm going to call it a day, but I accept that as one gets older, the eyesight fades, and the energy it takes to do it all. Maybe if someone got lucky and came and decided to buy my practice and paid me enough money that I could go, I'm retired and I could just call races and I don't have to think about anything else, and I go on a bit longer with those. It's just the way how life goes. But the reality is that Neil is younger than I am. So is Lyndon, Philip, Rashawn, who I love to hear call races, even though he's left the team as far as full time goes. They're the future of racing as far as calling races goes. Just like the new trainers, the new jobs, the new grooms. I just hope that that when my time comes to call it a day box, that people remember me for being entertaining, informative, and hopefully those guys have said, hey, Dean taught me. I learned a lot from Dean, or I learned a little bit from Dean. Or hell, I learned what not to do from Dean, whatever. But yeah, I think it's good to talk to them, because they're the ones that are going to have to carry this whenever my time comes today.
Well said. Well said.
And I gotta say thanks for having me. It's been wonderful, but it's way past my bedtime, and I have to go to the truck in the morning and go see my horse. So, good
Well,
night,
thanks
Darren.
again, my friend. Thanks for being on, and best of luck in the future. And I look forward to maybe I'll see you in Barbados pretty soon. Who knows?
Hope so. Good night.
Take care.
Take care.
Dr. Dean, you hear him on the I won't say radio, but you see him, you hear him while he's calling the races in Barbados, and he does a pretty awesome job. Until next time, we have another interesting guest and some more active conversation, and hopefully it's as live as this. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace.